Do ultralight hikers seem a little strange? Sleeping on torso length pads, under open tarps, spending hundreds of dollars just to save a few grams? I don't know about you, but for most people these things seem excessive, and I think there's a much saner way to achieve very light pack weights without having to sacrifice basic trail comforts. I've broken down this method into 4 simple steps that'll help you take a pack like this to a pack like this. Let's get into it. So, you know your pack's heavy, but you can't do anything until you know why your pack is heavy. For this, you need to figure out what items are unnecessarily heavy. The usual culprits are your tent, sleep system, and your backpack itself. If you want to know how much everything in your pack weighs, you could use an online pack weighing tool that'll highlight your heaviest items, or you could simply weigh everything using a kitchen scale. Although that'll have you looking a little bit odd, so you might have to do that in secrecy. For the majority of you, your tent, sleep system, and backpack are going to be your heaviest items. These are the main items of your kit, and as such they're going to impact the weight of your pack the most. Your first step is going to be to swap these heavier items for a lighter alternative. And yes, this can be expensive, but if you're an avid hiker, go for the quality option as it'll last you. Buy what you want, buy it once, and then you don't have to worry about it for years to come. For your tent, look for an option that's around a kilogram. Same goes for your sleeping bag or quilt. A good lightweight sleeping pad should weigh around 500 grams, and your backpack should weigh around a kilogram as well. If you can go lighter, do so, but know after a certain weight threshold the price of these items skyrockets. Half the time the difference between a $1,000 tent and a $500 tent is only 200 grams. You decide if it's worth it for you. Once you've dialed in your main items, now it's time to cut back on the amount of things that you take with you, as most hikers like to pack things that they simply don't use. After your next outing, I'd like you to separate your gear into 2 piles, the things you used and the things you didn't use. Now of course you'll want to bring certain items that you mightn't use on every outing, like emergency items and medkits, but again, do you even know how to use everything in your medkit? And can you see yourself actually using half the stuff that's in there? See what items end up in each pile and decide if it's even worth carrying something that you don't use. A common item that pretty much every hiker takes in the beginning, but rarely any of them ever use, is a pocket knife. I carried a pocket knife for some time, and I liked the security of having it with me, but I never ran into a situation where I actually needed to use it. It's items like this that can end up weighing you down. The only way to find out what you really need and what you don't is by being critical and leaving the unused items at home. Beyond the 2 previous steps is where ultralight hiking can start to get a little bit silly. After you've transitioned your main items into lighter alternatives and cleared your pack of unnecessary items and weight, your next task is deciding on your comfort to weight ratio. How much campsite comforts are you willing to give up for the sake of a lighter pack when on the trail? This is where some people can start to take ultralight hiking to the extreme. It's why you see some people sleeping under open tarps with little to no protection on torso length foam pads. It's light, yes, but there's no argument to saying it's as comfortable as sleeping under a full tent on top of an inflatable sleeping pad. But all of this comes down to how much comfort you are willing to sacrifice. Some people are simply willing to sacrifice more comfort than others, and it doesn't bother them. And if that's the case with you, so be it. I personally take a middle ground for this step. I use narrow and tapered inflatable sleeping pads. I don't bring a backpacking pillow as I find them uncomfortable. I don't bring a chair, and I don't bring campsite clothes other than extra socks. And I absolutely take a fully protective tent, as sleeping with all of Australia's various animals and bugs doesn't sound very appealing. This leads me to having a relatively light pack when on the trail, and enough campsite comforts for me to enjoy myself. This step really comes down to you and what you deem to be a necessary comfort. Don't let the advice of others stop you from taking something on your trip that makes your time enjoyable. Just know that for you to dramatically reduce your pack weight, a lot of it comes down to sacrificing campsite comforts. Figure out how much comfort you are willing to give up for the sake of a lighter pack. Some people are simply willing to give up more than others. If you've made the adjustments suggested in the 3 previous steps, then there isn't much more weight that you can drop from your pack. This is where people become extra critical of every single gram of every single item. You wonder why people choose to cut their toothbrushes in half. It saves them weight. Why people do choose to buy the $1,000 variant of a tent because it's 200 grams lighter than the $500 version. It's because it saves them weight. The principle is intelligent. Reduce weight where possible, but the extent to which people follow this principle can make ultralight hikers seem obsessive. So while you should aim to swap out your gear over time to lighter alternatives, similarly to what the first step has you do, you don't need to make all these changes at once because the benefit that it provides is quite small. It's the difference between a 300 gram jacket and a 200 gram jacket. But the changes do add up, so think of it as an ongoing improvement to your loadout and not something to change all at once. These 4 steps are really all that is required to reduce your pack weight immensely. A lot of information online about ultralight hiking relates on tips to how to deal with sacrificing comfort and how to squeeze every gram out of every single bit of gear in your loadout. There really isn't much more that you can do. There are other ways to make your pack lighter, but this comes down to how you carry your food, fuel and water. You can choose to carry less water with you and refill on the move, and you can choose to have more frequent food drops over long distance hikes. But essentially, these 4 steps are what you need to follow and all that you need to follow. How you interpret these steps is up to you and how you like to hike. Don't let the pursuit of a lighter pack detract from how much you enjoy hiking. Find the right balance that works for you. Let me know what you think about these steps, and if you'll make any of the changes discussed in this video. Leave your ultralight hiking tips down below, and until next time, happy hiking. I fixed it. It's alive. This is going in the studio.